Hello friends, Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. This instrument is not worth fixing. Well, I just kind of wonder how many of you have heard those words before. I also wonder how many of you have just thought that on your own. You know, like in other words, you've got an old instrument that's so badly damaged, you think, well, it just can't be fixed, or it's going to cost too much to fix it, or whatever. Well, we've got one here on the video that we're going to show you in just a minute. I already finished the video, and I actually already put a forward in this video, so I may be repeating a little bit here, but I really got to thinking about it, and I thought I ought to add this to the front of this video. You know, I don't want anybody to take this like a brag, because this is not what this is about. I honestly cannot imagine a scenario that you could bring an instrument into me, including if it was run over by a car, where I couldn't fix it. I mean, honestly, in 30 years, in 33 or 4 years that I've been doing this, I really can't remember a situation where I couldn't fix the instrument. Now, I can remember quite a few scenarios, and I can also think of quite a few scenarios where it probably wouldn't be worth fixing it. Let's just take a couple of, I want to give you about 3 different scenarios here, and just to give you some idea of what I'm talking about. Let's say you just went to a garage sale and you paid $5 and got this cheapy guitar, and you know, and let's say it's a $100 Kmart special. Well, you bring it to me and I say, well, I can fix it for $20, and you know, okay, in that situation it might be worth fixing. You know, I mean, maybe you've got a youngster that wants to learn to play or whatever. Or let's say I tell you it's going to cost you $200 to fix that. Well, then, you know, maybe it's not worth fixing. You know, if it's a Kmart special, just go buy another Kmart special, you know. The other scenario would be you paid a little bit of money for something, and it turns out it's a really fine old guitar. You know, you bought it at a garage sale for $20, but it's maybe a $2,500 guitar if it was fixed up, you know, and maybe I'm going to charge you $1,000 to fix it. Well, you know, in that situation, it's probably worth fixing. The question becomes, at that point, do you have the money to fix it? Is it in your budget? You know, that kind of thing. Well, you have to make those determinations. But there's a third scenario yet that I really think fits a lot of people. I know it fit me, and that is when it's the sentimental value. For instance, you know, it's an old violin that was owned by your great-grandfather or by your grandfather or by your dad or mother or somebody in the family, and it's been passed down, but it's in really, really bad shape. Well, you know, honestly, again, it can be fixed. I don't even have to, the question is never, can you fix it? Yes, I can fix it, period. I'll just answer the question. The question becomes then, is it within your budget to fix it? Really, that's the bottom line. Because it can be fixed, and in my opinion, the rules are totally off on the money. In other words, it doesn't really matter under those circumstances what it costs to be fixed. Like my grandpa's old violin, when I received it, I knew it was a cheap violin. It wasn't an expensive violin or anything, but I took it completely apart, and I even recarved some of the inside of it and put it back together, and now it actually sounds like a really nice old violin. It still looks basically the same, but it really sounds good, you know. And some people would say, well, now it doesn't sound like it when he owned it. Well, that's okay. I like it better now. I mean, I know he owned it. He played it, you know, all that length of time, and it sounds good now when I play it. So I like it a lot, and I wouldn't take anything for it. I happen to have a violin that just came in, I believe, from Tennessee, and it's in really bad shape. And the family is kicking back and forth. There's a lot of family members involved, and they don't know whether they want it fixed or not, you know, because, they know it looked just like it did when he owned it. Well, the way I look at that is, let's say your grandfather was still alive and he brought it to me. And this violin's in such bad shape, it's not playable at all, and it's broken in so many places. and the finish is totally wrecked, and it's been glued all over the place, and the glue is just a mess. I mean, literally a mess. It's got to be scraped off. That's how bad the glue is. Well, in that scenario, I have a feeling the grandfather would say, listen, fix it up. I want it to look good. I want it to sound good. I want to play this thing. And I don't think the grandfather would have any objection to fixing it up. So, you know, it's all in how you feel about it, obviously. But the point of me just adding this to the front of this video is, if you've got the old fiddle or the old guitar or whatever sitting up in the attic or in the closet, and it's been there for 20, 30 years, and you've always thought about fixing it up, I'm telling you for black and white fact, I can fix it. I can bring it back to life for you. And I think I do it at a very reasonable price. To give you some idea, I basically charge about 60 bucks an hour. That's just roughly what I charge. And I'm way faster than almost anybody I know. And I'm not bragging again, I'm just telling you a black and white fact. When you send them to me, generally speaking, unless it has to be refinished. If it has to be refinished, all bets are off because it takes a long time for finish to dry and all that. So you're talking maybe a month or 2 months sometimes on those kinds of issues. But on any other type of issue, I rarely keep an instrument more than 10 days. I mean, you know, 2 weeks to 10 days, something like that is about all I keep them. So almost anything that comes in, you'll get it back in a couple of weeks. Even if it's really bad shape, because I work fast and I can fix it. So that's the whole point of this, putting this on the front, is to let you know that, hey, look, it can be fixed. The question is just simply, do you want to spend the money to fix it? And, you know, is it worth it in your mind monetarily to fix it? And my bet is that if it's a sentimental thing, then the money just doesn't matter. Just get it fixed. You know, it's cool to have a nice instrument that was handed down through the family. And if it's fixed up nice, then it'll be handed down for many more generations. If it's left to be a wreck, somebody down the road's going to throw it away. That's just the bottom line. Somebody's going to throw it away. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'm sorry to be rambling here, but I just felt like that was really necessary to say because it comes up all the time. Hope you enjoy the video. Thank you for watching. Today, I just wanted to show you a guitar that's not worth fixing. Here's what it looks like. This is a Yamaha guitar. It's an FG300, and it's in very good shape in my opinion. But according to the music stores, or at least a music store in the general area, again I won't say where it's at because there's several music stores within an hour drive of this area, so we won't say where it's at, but they said this guitar is not worth fixing. Well, here's what the problem is. The bridge is loose and this pickguard's loose. Other than that, I don't see a thing wrong with it, but it's not worth fixing according to them, so I guess we'll just trash it. Well, I'm being a little bit smart alecky, I guess. It just seems silly to me that they would say that because there's really nothing wrong with this guitar and it's not a very hard fix. I mean, you just take the bridge off and put it back on, you know. They said the reason it's not worth fixing is it's too dried out. Well, I don't even see a finish crack in it anywhere. You know, if it was really dried out, it'd be cracking all over the place. And so I don't know what their excuse was. I guess they just were lazy, just didn't want to fix it. That's all I can come up with. So anyway, fortunately the lady heard about me and she brought it here, and I said, well, yeah, I can fix that. I mean, it'll cost you a few dollars, but in my opinion, the guitar's worth the dollars that you'll spend on this once you get it done, you know. And it's got one of these crazy adjustable bridges, and you know how I hate those things. So when I suggested to her that when we take this off, we'll just build her a real nice bridge and put it on here, you know, and figure out where the saddle should be and put it in there. And we'll put some new double stick tape on this and stick it back down. So our work is cut out for us. Let's get started. I have the strings off of the Yamaha guitar. I've got my little camera. We're going to go inside and see if we can see anything wrong in there. I don't see anything wrong. As a matter of fact, it's made a little different than I was expecting. There's a screw, it looks like, which I would say corresponds to this screw right here. And let's see what we can see on this side, if anything. It's very difficult to... There it is, there's another screw on that side. It looks like the whole inside of the guitar has been shellacked or coated with fiberglass or resin or something. I've never quite seen that before. But it does look a little different. It looks like the whole inside's that way. We're going to take this all apart. This is loose, very loose. So I'm just going to see if it'll just be friendly and just come all the way up and come off. Looks like it will. Alright, well that's one step down, and that's in good shape, so we can reuse that no problem. We'll have to clean all the dirt off of this. Getting the bridge off might not be quite so easy because it appears to be bolted under these two deals here. And wow, I'd like to put those back in the new bridge. It's going to be a little bit tricky. I'll have to think about that for a few minutes here, and we'll get back to you. A little update here. It appears that what I was seeing inside there was these buttons, not this here. There does not appear to be anything in that location. So this just may be decoration. It may not be bolted on. I don't feel a bolt in there, and I didn't see one in there when I was looking with the endoscope. So we're just going to heat this puppy up and see what happens. You can see I have the iron on the bridge. And I'm heating up my little tool here on the front of the iron also. I've got some cardboard down to keep from overheating the actual top itself. And it's been on there for a few minutes, so I'm going to see if it's how loose it is.
Weathered and worn with the hinges on.
And a few pieces pulled out, but that's really not too terribly bad. We can fix all that. I don't think it's going to be a problem at all.
Was one old precious thing. It was
These bushings were just pressed down in there, so I just got underneath the edges and popped them right out. So we do have a little bit of fixing to go with, but not too bad really. This, you know, it's really not as bad as it looks. This popped up, and there's a piece here that popped out. The rest of it's just a little bit, so won't be no big deal to fix all that. Okay, I was able to peel this one large piece off of the bottom of the bridge, and it'll fit right back on here and fill the little hole.
Heaven above. The most honest man that I ever had.
I see that this is a little bit crumbled up under here, so I'm going to uncrumble it, and I think that'll make it lay down in there a little bit better. This got pushed a little bit.
River at the mouth of Blue Springs, and at night the hills that go as the old fiddle would ring. Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love, and I can still hear it playing up in heaven above. Just a boy at the time, I remember a day when Grandpa and that old fiddle some old tunes he did play. Well now Grandpa, he has left us for heaven above, but he left me.
Hey, you know, I might be going to too much trouble on a guitar that's not worth fixing.
Grandpa's old fiddle played sweet melodies. He played it from his heart for my grandma and me. Wrinkled old hands, he held it with love.
That should be fine. I'll let that set for a couple hours at least, and you know, then if worst case scenario, we'll just take the little plane and plane it back flat if it's not flat when we're done. I've been letting this piece set against the iron for a while to get real good and hot to see if I could just accidentally get the rest of this off of here. I don't think the rest of this is coming off, at least not in one piece. I don't believe it's worth trying. It's kind of a mess. I'm not too worried about this. I think we can flatten this all out and make that fine, so I'm not going to worry about that little bit of stuff right there. I have a piece of rosewood that is literally a scrap piece of rosewood, but yet it is just big enough to make a real nice bridge here, I believe. There might be a tiny finish crack in it here. I can't really tell, or that just may be the grain. It's hard to say. If it is a crack, we'll fix it, but it's not really flat exactly. I'm cutting it out a little bigger than I need, probably 3/16 of an inch wider than I need. And we'll just rip it first. And to give us some kind of a blank there. We'll see if it sits flat now. It's still a little rocky. So I'm going to take it over to the sander and see if we can sand this flat. It's going to be pretty noisy. Don't know if you can really hear me, but we're just going to level this out. I've got the vacuum on. That looks real nice. That's going to be a real fine piece there. You can see where there's just a hint of that scar left. That was probably from a chainsaw, and you can't feel that, so I always stop right when you get to as soon as you can stop, that's when I stop. So now it's nice and flat on the bottom, and it's fairly square here, so we'll be able to thickness plane it now and get this down to a level surface. We're at the thickness sander. I'm going to turn on the vacuum and the sander. It's going to get pretty noisy, and we're just going to slide this through by hand, feed it through, hopefully. I think we'll stop right there for right now. That's probably good enough for the moment, and then we'll trace our pattern on there and cut out and get rid of some excess wood. We have her centered up on the piece of wood, on the block of wood. I'm going to trace around it, and as always, when I cut this out, I'll leave the pencil mark so that this new bridge will be just a little bit bigger than the old one. Okay, we're back into the other part of the shop to continue working. We're at the drill press. I have a drill bit in there that's smaller than I need. I'm going to drill these holes and just center them up.
She crawled in the back and in a shaky tone she said, "My name is Mary, please won't you take me home." She must have been so frightened.
I'm going to saw out the rough profile. Here we go.
There was something strange about her. Her face was deadly white.
Well, that's just a rough profile, but it should get us going where we want to go. You can see we still got a lot of rough wood in this area and over here, but that's all going to be gone by the time we get this thing made. It should look just fine.
pulled into the driveway where she told me to go. I got out to help her from the car, then I opened up the door.
We're within 1/1000th, so we'll call that good enough.
The back seat was bare. I looked all around the car.
We're just going to scallop the ends now.
A light shone from the front porch. Someone opened up the door. And I asked about the little girl that I was searching for. The lady gently smiled as she brushed a tear away. She said it sure was nice of you to go out of your way. But 13 years ago tonight in a wreck just down the road, our darling Mary lost her life and we miss her so. Thank you for your trouble and the kindness you have shown. You're the 13th one.
We're going to rock this on here to kind of round over the top of this bridge.
A drifter is only a poet with wings. He moves but he can't learn to fly. Running in footsteps ahead of his time, with no one to hear if he cries. With memories of your sweet love on the vine, I thumb my way south in the rain.
I think you can see we've done a pretty good job of making this match up. It's just a little bit bigger than the old one, but not very much bigger. I'm going to see about getting these inlay pieces out of here and possibly putting them back in the new piece.
Tomorrow a new life is starting for you.
I have an idea on how I'm going to try to get these pieces out. I've cut 2 notches in the ends here, and I'm taking a very small file and I'm filing till I get to that flat spot on the ends of these inlays. And I'm thinking that I can heat it up then and then put a blade under there and maybe pry it up out of there, hopefully without chipping it. Maybe we can try heating it on the back side with the iron and see if that'll get hot enough to do any good. The iron is heating up. I'm putting the back side of the wood on the iron to try to let it get really, really hot.
I know what it means, sweetheart, when you lose, but someday you'll look back.
It's got to be pretty hot, so let me see what that does to it, if anything.
Need a friend. I guess that's the way it must be, but nothing remains as it was yesterday.
Oh, it's plastic. Well, that answers that problem. I couldn't tell if it was real mother of pearl or if it was plastic. It came out, but it's plastic. I don't think we'll be putting that back in. So, I mean, we could probably, but it kind of deformed it a little bit. I have the bridge located on the top here. I'm going to take this X-Acto knife with the very sharp point, trying just to settle the bridge where I want it there. And of course I'm going to scribe around it like I always do.
With wings, he moves, but he can't learn to fly. Running.
Okay, that made a nice mark around there, and I can see it real good. Now we will get our little tools and clean this all out. Well, you've seen my little tool I made for picking this stuff out of here. I'm not going to show all this, but basically I'm just going around and I'm going to pick out all of the
foreign material and finish that's inside of the scribe line that I made.
I was a roamer, a legend on the sea. Tell the good ones love made a new man out of me. Life had no meaning, it was all incomplete. Tell the good woman's love.
It's actually pretty flat. I'm really pretty happy with how flat it is. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We will clean off the back side of this with some acetone and get ready to glue it on there.
He's waiting there.
Gonna get glue all over this now. I got a wedge under here where I want to get glue under this one little strip that's...
The night falls and the moon shines above. I'm a man with a dream and a good woman's love.
Okay, to clean this plastic, I'm going to start off with the lesser solvent first, which for me I think is alcohol. I'm going to try that first and see if that does anything. Sometimes you get lucky and alcohol's all you need, but other times not so much.
Shines above. I'm a man with a dream.
I don't think alcohol's doing much here in this particular case. I didn't really expect it would, though you just never know. Sometimes it will. Doesn't seem like it's taking it off. Now you got to be careful with what you try next, because you can eat up your plastic really fast with these other solvents. I can feel sticky stuff around here. I don't know. This goof off says it's super glue remover, epoxy adhesive, Gorilla Glue, some of that stuff. So let's try just a little bit of that and see if it does anything. It sure made it sticky, but yeah, I don't think that's working too good either. Don't think I want to use that. We may end up just scraping it off. That's one of the safer ways to do it, a little more time consuming, but you know, you're pretty much only getting what you want off when you scrape it like that, and you can see the rubber glue kind of coming off as I scrape it. But that's not doing a very good job on this stuff either. It's whatever the stuff is, it appears to have melted into the plastic just a little bit. So that's not a good thing, because that means you probably have to use something that melts the plastic to get it off of there. It may just be better to scrape it in this case.
I think it is. Try a different scraper though. That scraper's kind of odd for that. Let me try this one here. Yeah, I think I'll go with a single edge razor blade and see if that works.
Clickety sounds of a southbound freight and the high-speed hum of a passenger train becomes a part of the soul and the heart and the mind of a boy who's raised by the railroad line. Hear the sounds of the whistle at the crossing of the road, and the tanks and the trucks and the tractors on the flat car load.
I don't think we're going to do much better than this, really.
By the railroad line, and the big round penny that you laid on the rails and the wheels smashed flat, and the glimpse of the ladies and the pictures of the men and the engineers.
That's about as good as we're going to do. Now we'll just get the sticky stuff, put it on the back of here, and put it back in place. I'm unrolling some two-way tape.
Quite turned loose. It's a part of the soul and the heart and the mind of a boy who's raised by the railroad
see any benefit to putting it on here right now. Might as well just wait till tomorrow, and when the clamps are off there I can work better and see better. And then we got to take the pickup out of the inside and cut a saddle slot in here, and we'll be ready to string this baby up. It's been 24 hours. We're going to take the clamps off and see what we ended up with. Looks real good. Now we'll see if we can put this pick guard back on here and get it in the right place. It's a little bit tricky to get it just right, because this stuff, once it sticks, you don't move it once it sticks. Yeah, pretty close. It might be a hair off around this front edge here, but looks pretty good. Really hard to get that on there like that. Looks good around here. I don't think that'll come loose for a while. Not bad for a guitar that's not worth fixing. Now we put a little slot across here and we're up and running. The customer asked me to get rid of this pickup in here. It just rattles around. They're not using it. So I'm going to see if I can get it out of here. It's got a nut on the inside that has to be loosened up. Got that loose, and don't know where all the wires are going. Goes to here. It's a Dean Markley. It looks like it's the kind that's going to have to be unsoldered to get it loose. Yeah, it's not. It's just one continuous loop here, so we'll have to unsolder it to get it to come apart. I realize I could just cut this off. It wouldn't be a big deal.
but it's not very hard to unsolder it either, so I'll just unsolder it. I tinker with a lot of stuff, and who knows, I might end up tinkering with this thing. You just never know, this pickup. Got it as tight as I can do it by hand. May have to see if I can fit a long neck socket on there. Alright, I'm going to open up these holes. They're a little closed up with the glue.
Tonight I'm making my
Got my jig sitting on here for the strings. Want to check the yeah, that goes right down in there. It's just perfect. That was a 5mm bit.
come back home. Tonight as I stand here I've noticed my hands here are trembling as never before. My feelings I can't hide, resistance is all that my pride will rush outside the moment she walks through the door. The lips that have kissed her, that's loved her and missed her, are lips that have cursed her at night. In anguish and torment I've cursed as the nights went from darkness till dawn's golden light. I thought of just taking these two hands and breaking that body I'm aching to touch. I find while I'm waiting there's no time for hating, while anticipating the woman I wanted so much. Flowers to brighten the hours. I put brown sheets on the bed. I'm nervous, I'm trembling, recalling, remembering the way that she tosses her head. I've given much thought to the fact
I think I'm pretty satisfied with that right there. Well, that was simple. Not. Alright, I'm just going to draw the straight lines on here, across the back, across the front. We've got her all set up, marked off. I've got the ends marked where I want to stop with pencil. The only issue I've got is seeing it. Just trying to get the lamp where it'll work for me. It might not work for the camera. Try this. Maybe that'll work. My goal is to cut the back side of the slot first, then take the shim out and cut the front side of the slot. Now the problem is getting it to the right depth. Well, here goes nothing, as they say. We'll give it a shot. Well, you do have to plug the router in. That always helps. Well, that looks pretty darn good. Looks like it followed the line really well. Now let's see what the depth of that is, just to give some idea. It's not real critical what the depth is, but let's just see what it is. It's almost 100 thousandths, according to that.
Yeah, it's almost exactly 100 thousandths, which isn't too bad, but I'd like it to go another 50 if we could. We've got the bit extended another 50 thousandths. Give it another shot. So far so good. We'll take the shim off now, and that'll move the bit in quite a bit, and just hope nothing goes wrong. You quit while you're ahead, as they say. Okay, we have the jig removed. Now we're going to make a saddle for this. I've showed that many times, so I'm not going to film that. I will tell you that the saddle needs to be right at 130 thousandths wide. Actually, that'll probably be too tight, but it's easier to go small. So I'll make it about 130 thousandths in width, and I'll just use one of these old saddles as a pattern. I'll use the tallest one I've got as a pattern. Actually, I'll even set that in here to see if it's going to work. I believe that'll be plenty high. So we'll use that one kind of as my height pattern. And lengthwise, I made it a lot longer saddle, so it just spread the sound out. So we'll have to make a little longer one. I don't think I got it on camera entirely, but I did level all the frets and recrown them. It was just a light job. I didn't do a full fret job on this, but it's just enough to make it playable. The fret job wasn't my goal. My charge from the customer was just to fix this bridge basically, but I want it to be good and playable, so I lowered it down a little bit there, or leveled it out a little bit there, I should say. Let's see, I know this saddle should just be crazy high. Should be, but that isn't always the way it works out. These holes, I had a feeling were probably going to be too small by the time I get the string and everything in there. Although they're not too bad. Maybe a hair too small.
Sunlight, that black car sure shine. It reminds me of our better times. Back to a time our love was new, when all my days were filled with dreams of you. Lonely evenings that I spend at home, still keep your picture by my telephone. Oh, what
I'm showing that's about 180 thousandths. So 180, and the thickness of it is 54 thousandths, so 180 minus 54, 126 thousandths. Okay, according to my calculations, I need, on this side of the saddle, I need to take off about 60 thousandths, and on this side I need to take off about 70 thousandths. So let's see what happens. What I did was I measured off my 70 thousandths on one side and 60 thousandths on the other, put a fine ruler on there and a very sharp pencil and drew a very fine line across there. And anyway, I took off half that line with the grinder, so left half of the line there because the line was pretty much right on the center of the marks.
I try to fight it, but my lips say your name. My mind knows better, but my heart's to blame. And all my dreams have a bitter end. We're always in our cars.
We're real close to 100 thousandths right now on both of them, which is a little bit more than I want. I'd like to go down another 10 thousandths. So we'll work on it just a little bit more. I have a little, this is just an old saddle that on my little thickness sander, I can make them exactly what size I want them to be.
And I measured this one down to, or I got it down to 90 thousandths on one side and 80 thousandths on the other side, which is just about right, I think, for an acoustic guitar. Right now we're a little above that on both sides. We're like I said, we're about 100 thousandths here now. It just barely moves. I mean, between 100 and 90, there's very little distance. And even between 180 thousandths, there's very little distance, very little movement. 10 thousandths to 20 thousandths of an inch is not much. We're just about where we want to be. I can really barely see the string even move when I press down on it. This side's just a little bit more movement. So I think I'll just take it out and just touch it across the bottom there. It doesn't need much at all. But I'd like to have it a little better. Alright, we'll slide the saddle back in here, and I believe we're going to be good this time. I took off a tiny amount more, probably 15 or so thousandths, which would equate to about 7 or 8 thousandths out here. Just noticed one of the tuning keys up here is very loose, so we're going to look at that before we get her the rest of the way. See if there's any other ones loose. And it must be loose up here on top too. This bolt must be loose, but it doesn't want to turn by hand, so let me get the right wrench. We'll see what happens. Alright, we got that tightened up. I just did that off camera. It was a 10 millimeter wrench took care of that. Well, let's do the final little bit of a tuning on this little puppy and see what she sounds like. Hey, that sounds pretty good for a guitar that's not worth fixing. Yeah, I'd say that's a pretty good sounding guitar for a guitar that's not worth fixing. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you've enjoyed this, and just remember, if you've got a guitar that belonged to your grandpa or somebody in the family that it's a hand-me-down, and you want it fixed, it can be fixed. I don't care how bad it is. I really honestly don't care if a car ran over it. It can be fixed. So, you know, it just depends on whether you think it's worth it sentimentally wise. You know, I mean, sometimes it's, you know, a real fine instrument and it needs to be fixed. Other times it's a piece of junk, but it's a family heirloom and it still needs to be fixed. So just keep that in mind, and if you want it fixed, I'll fix it for you. Thanks for watching.